Brown, the speaker for the evening, other special invitees have already arrived. Before I commence the program formally for this evening, let me briefly tell you what's happening. And first, let me thank all the members who are watching online, who are physically here. A big thanks to you for making the MMA convention outstanding. The MMA convention this year was really very good, some with outstanding speakers. I've done this my 18th convention. I could say that this is one of the best conventions we could organize. So you missed it. I suggest you can go and watch our YouTube channel, and especially you must watch the R&D and innovation. That's one of the top class discussion. Especially we had a person who worked with Steve Jobs closely. He shared a lot of insights. Then we had on leadership. It's a CEO sector where 3 CEOs were in conversation with one of the moderator from outstanding from CNBC. So it's an outstanding program. I really impress upon you to watch it. The next program, what's happening is next on 14th of Feb. We have a talk on forecasting under uncertainty, lessons from the poll predictions. We have outstanding panel again, T.S. Krishnamurthy, former Chief Election Commissioner, then Sriram Sheshadri, then Prime Point Srinivasan, and Mr. Kumarasamy will be having the conversation. Then on 14th February, again, we have Darshana Jain will be talking at Ananagar, our outreach program. Then on 21st, we have Ambassador Ajay Bisra. Yeah, you can come to the front row. Please, come. Yeah, come. All front row is reserved for you only. Please come. Yes. Now, the next event, what we are doing is on the 21st of Feb. Ambassador Ajay Bisaria is a former strategic consultant, former foreign secretary. He's going to be talking on a very important subject, weathering the Trump storm, business strategy and tariff first. Then on 21st, we have a full day conclave on GST. GST simplified from compliance to burden. The note is already gone today. Please register yourself. We have some outstanding speaker to join. Then Read and Grow by Sangeeta Sumesh Shankaran on 25th of Feb. Then we have MMA Great Lakes Conclave on International Women's Day. Study in cities by the people who are migrating from rural areas and what issues they are facing, how the issue can be really resolved. We have done a research. We will be doing this program. On 12th of March, Arish Bhatt will be talking to us on Do the Right Thing, learning from Ratan Tata. So there are a number of other programs are there. On the 18th of March, we have Dr. Gopal Krishnan, former executive director of Tata Sons. He'll be talking to the Chanakya, Tezu, the business lesson from thought. I think this is happening online. Then we have 6th Narayan Memorial Lecture. We have a number of events lined up. I thought I already shared with you. Coming to today's event, there's so much of talk on AI and so many lectures and conferences and conclaves done on AI. The more the AI we do, the more we get confused, the more we want to learn actually. That is true actually. But at the end of the day, today, another book on AI, but this book is something different actually. And I've seen the speaker, I've seen the content, what is written. It's going to be really thought-provoking, something insightful for you to understand, very important thing. AI for the rest of us. An illustrated introduction, because it's a nice book, the way simply it takes, and the author has he's been with us firstly to share his thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hand together to welcome the author of the book, Sairam Sundaresan, AI engineering leader, author of this book. And we also have our Vice President, Mr. Raman, and he's also Chairman of Super Auto Forge. Suresh Raman, Past President of MMA, and he was till recently Regional Head of Tata Consultancy Services. And Antony Prasahant is a partner at Deloitte. Big round of applause to the distinguished panel for this evening. May I request you to take your place on the dais. The format of the program this evening is, I'm going to request Vice President of MMA, Mr. Raman, to deliver the formal welcome and introduction. Thereafter, we launch the book officially. Then we request the author, Sairam, to make his presentation. After the presentation is over, the special invitees, that is Mr. Suresh Raman and Mr. Antony Prasahant, will be in conversation with them. Then we will open it to the public for your Q&A. And we have a Mentimeter. The Mentimeter's QR code will be on the screen. Please scan and send your questions, and we don't really distribute the microphone to reach to each one of you, because we want only the author to speak on the subject. If it goes to the audience speak, the author will have to only answer the questions later. That's the reason we don't do that. And now let me have the privilege of going to welcome Raman. Before I request him to come and deliver the formal welcome introduction, may I have his AV, please?
Mr. S. Sairam is the chairman of Super Auto Forge Private Limited and a pioneering entrepreneur who introduced cold forging technology for auto components in India. Founder of SAF in 1974, Mr. Sairam has built it into India's largest exporter of forged steel and aluminium auto parts, and now serves as mentor to the next generation while actively supporting social causes.
Yeah, it's testing how well you are patient actually. May I request Raman to deliver the formal welcome address.
Dignitaries on the dais, esteemed guests, good evening and welcome to this book release function. Today I wear three hats, not one, two. As a MMA Vice President, I have pleasure in inviting you to this function here. Number two, I happen to be the proud uncle of Sairam, who has written this book, and therefore we are all very proud about it. Thirdly, of course, as a user industry, today, as you are aware, manufacturing industries, the bar is being kept raised by the users. I would even say every quarter, the quality levels and other levels of usage keeps increasing, and we all have to look into more modern ways of manufacturing, sustain where we are. Industry 4.0, as you know, is already an established thing, and we are looking at furthermore now. Sairam is actually did his engineering in what is that engineering college? I forget the name. SSM is a very famous college. He did his engineering here. Went to Ann Arbor, University of Michigan at Ann Arbor, a very prestigious place. After his MS, he did a stint in Qualcomm, Intel, and then come back to India with value. And he has been all the time spending his energy on this AI development and AI research. He has a lot of research papers to his credit. And of course, this book is written, which is supposed to be for others, that is non-intensive AI people. Of course, I tried my best to understand part of it, and I should be very honest that I could understand only small part of it, because the very, very detailed process in it. Yeah, I particularly belong to a generation where I've seen too many firsts in life. Probably the first, starting with first transistors, small thing, making a very big sound and whatnot, and televisions, facsimiles, fax systems, and then on to emails, which again change everything, and then on to cell phones. So we've seen a varieties of new technologies every decade or 2 decades in between, which at that point appeared to be the pinnacle, nothing more. But every time such a thing comes, you see that within a matter of years, that's nothing. So AI is something like that. In the last, I would say, at least in the last 4 years, 3-4 years, has been very, very much being prevalent and keep increasing into so many areas. In a manufacturing industry, as I said, the demand on quality, delivery on time, and also the price is highly demanding. If one is to survive, we got to be the best in everything. And with particularly companies like us who export 80% of goods to USA and Europe, the goods travels almost half the earth before it reaches the customer. Timing them, particularly logistics, is a nightmare unless you have a very, very controlled process in place. Other than that, even in regular day-to-day, I find that marketing uses quite a bit of AI for predicting what is going to be the seasonal variations, fluctuations over a period. They're able to reasonably predict with the AI tools. HR is again started using it in a big way. And R&D and development definitely uses AI in a big way because, predictability of many materials, tools, predicting fatigue life of parts. So design and R&D has got a wide scope of where you use them. I'm just telling whatever our limited use we do. But one of the major use we do in our type of company is vision systems. Today you want to make sure that nothing fails, no fail proof. Therefore we use hell of a lot of vision cameras, not only inspection, even in process. If the operator is to keep 5 things, the cameras keep looking. Even if he has missed to pick one thing, he is told that he is missed or something. Therefore, the advent of this kind of technologies into day-to-day life is staggeringly increasing. At the moment, I am convinced to think that probably AI is going to ape everything, and probably for a long time to come is going to be this thing, the leading thing. But even as we are contemplating AI in a big way, one way we are very happy that its use, particularly we are talking of autonomous cars, and the latest EVs are virtually, you call them a car or a computer, you should really be, 2 minds. So it's gone to that extent. Autonomous vehicles they are talking about already. But there is always a section of pundits who always caution that AI usage must also be kept in some wrap. Therefore, its usage should not become a spoiler for the industry or applications or whatever it is. Medical field, for that matter, AI is so sporadically used. Therefore, I am very happy that Sairam decided to write this book on this and make it known to people that AI is coming, and people have to adopt it. And something like literary person survives, people without AI probably are not going to survive without next generation. I have people who are very highly qualified to talk on this. Therefore, I don't want to be holding more time talking about AI. I once again thank you all for having come here and to attend this book release. I am very happy to be associated with this. Thank once again the MMA management to have given this arrangement and space for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sairam, doing the honor to deliver the formal welcome address. Gentlemen, before we move on further, let me formally tell all the viewers watching the program live from all our channels, including LinkedIn. If you have any question, please share your question to the number which is flashed on the screen. We have a team here which will compile all the questions, place it before the speakers to respond to the question, whichever is relevant to the theme which you are being discussed today. Now we are coming to the most awaited part of this evening is the formal launch of the book, and thereafter I request the author to speak on the book. May I request the dignitary please step forward and do the honor to launch the book formally. Yes. Sairam, it's your privilege to give a copy to each one of us. Come, sir. Again, the success of young man with the dad.
Come on the stage. Come. Join. Sir, come for the photo. Come. Right.
you, Sai. Before I call Sairam to come and share his thoughts on the book and a brief introduction about Sairam, may I have the AV please?
Mr. Sairam Sundaresan is an AI engineering leader and author of AI for the Rest of Us, with over 14 years of experience in machine learning and applied AI. Mr. Sairam currently leads advanced AI research at Valio, after pioneering deep learning and algorithm, hardware co-design at Intel Labs and contributing breakthrough mobile AI technologies at Qualcomm. A published researcher, patent holder, and NASA Frontier Development Lab mentor, Mr. Sairam is passionate about making AI accessible through teaching, writing, and thought leadership.
Privilege to present to you Sairam Sundaresan, share his insights on the book. Sairam.
Good evening. Thanks for coming here this evening. It's a very interesting time to be alive. And I want to take you all to a different place today. And it's not a huge lab, it's not a big company, and it's not a conference room. It's actually a basement. And it's way back in 1943 in Chicago. The world around this basement was burning. Major war was ongoing. Millions of people had died, and millions more would die before it finished. But in this basement, there was another war going on between two very unlikely individuals. One was a neuroscientist. His name was Warren McCulloch. The other was a self-taught logician and someone who didn't have a permanent address at some times and didn't have any institutional backing and was just passionate about understanding how our human brain works. His name was Walter Pitts. So you really couldn't find two polar opposites in the same room, and yet they were in this basement while the world around them was burning. And what they were trying to focus on in this basement would change how our species, in terms of technology, it would be the most transformational technology. And they came up with this hypothesis that nobody else before them had thought of or had clearly articulated. And this hypothesis was that the neuron, which is a biological cell in the brain that flashes every time you think, every time you feel, every time you think of a loved one, is not magic. It's actually logic. True or false, 1 or 0, on or off. And their hypothesis was very simple. If you could connect a whole bunch of these logic units together, it would be possible to simulate thought, reasoning, and problem solving. And this idea has completely transformed everything that has happened since. It has been over 80 years since they first came up with this idea. And now we see the edifice that they have built through their notes, through their ideas, is one that we are living in, one that we are walking through, and one that we scarcely understand. You see, it's touching every single industry we are part of. It's touching every aspect of our life. And it's transforming things and our thoughts of what machines can and cannot do. So I stand here tonight to tell you that we are standing and living inside their edifice. But there's a problem. You see, we are navigating blindly. We don't know which of these walls in this edifice are load-bearing. We don't know which of these walls are just for decoration. We don't know which corridors lead to meaning and which corridors lead to darkness. And that is the problem that we need a floor plan for. And my book, I hope, is that floor plan that I wish to offer to you all. To understand where we stand tonight, we need to understand the recurring problem that we seem to have as humans. And it's not a problem of technology, it's not a problem of understanding, it's actually a problem of ego. And there's a lot of interesting things that happen because of this ego. I want to take you forward to the year 1966. And in a very prestigious school in the United States, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, two world-renowned computer scientists issued a memo. Marvin Minsky and Seymour Papert, they wanted to find undergraduate students and assign them the task of solving computer vision, which is the science of teaching machines to see. And their premise was simple. I have a very powerful computer. Let's connect the camera and ask it to see. Now, what could possibly go wrong, right? It seems very simple. But it turns out that they grossly underestimated one of the things that separate humans from machines. When you look at objects, when you open your eyes and look around, you aren't thinking about depth, you aren't thinking about colors or pixels, you aren't thinking about texture mapping or perspective, you just see. It's natural as breathing is to you. But for a machine, this is insanely hard. And what's interesting is that it didn't take 3 months to solve as they originally wanted. It actually took billions and billions of dollars, many years of trials and failure, actually 50 years of trial and failure and engineering before a machine could distinguish between a cat and a dog. Right? And this is the paradox that's called Moravec's paradox, which is what's easy for humans is very hard for AI. And what's easy for AI is hard for humans. And unfortunately, we are repeating that same 1966 vision project mistake all over again in our current society. I like to call this the 1966 trap of AI agents. So the only difference here is we are actually spending billions more of dollars and wasting money, losing trust and credibility, and falling prey again to Moravec's paradox. So, to just explain this paradox a little bit, writing code, solving a game of chess, protein folding. When we think about this, you think about the elite people in each field who are able to solve these problems as humans. But you flip the switch for a machine, it's very simple. It's logic. It's a sequence of steps that they follow, and they can do it at scale, which we humans can't individually do. But now you reverse the paradigm. Think about folding a blanket or a towel. Think about navigating an obstacle-ridden room. Or think about having a conversation where you understand the context from start to finish. It's so easy for us. We don't blink, we just do it. And for these machines, it's so hard. Some of these challenges aren't even solved yet. And this is what's happening now in boardrooms across the country, in strategy sessions, where people are trying to use these machines to solve problems that they feel are so trivial, because these machines can write insane amounts of code. Just last week, a foundation model was released that could write 100,000 lines of code that implemented a compiler. And if any of you come from a software engineering background, you will understand the complexity of it. It would take senior engineers months and months to achieve the same feat. It took this AI model a fraction of the time and cost. And guess what? It wasn't just writing code. It passed 99% of their test suite. And it wrote it for 3 different hardwares. So just think about the scale at which this model has been operating. Right? That's the world that we're living in today. But then again, if it can do this, of course it should be able to solve my payroll bug. Of course it should be able to handle my enterprise. And surely it should be able to automate everything in my company. right? I mean, this task of writing 100,000 lines of code from scratch is, it's a mountain compared to some of these other problems. So what do? We basically say, let's give it all the code we have in our company, or let's give it all the documentation we have in our company, and then say, fix it. That's it. And then we just wait. And we hope a miracle happens, the spectacular unfolds, and we all can cheer how AI is transformational and changing our lives. But the truth is, it fails. And it fails because it's not a bad piece of technology. It's actually the lack of a shared context. We don't speak the same language. We don't understand how it works. And we don't know how to leverage it in a way that will maximize its potential and solve our problems. So I actually call this the Tower of Babel tax. And the point is, I'm sure, I actually would like to see a show of hands. How many of you have sat in meetings that involve multiple stakeholders, finance, marketing, legal, and how many of you have walked away when they've been talking about AI initiatives where you felt like everyone said the right thing? Everyone smiled, acknowledged, and walked away. But you came with that nagging feeling that finance understood one thing, marketing understood another thing, and engineering understood another thing. Right? And this is a translation problem. This is a translation problem that we need to fix if we are to survive and thrive in this AI age. So, this happens because of two reasons. The first is a failure mode that I call the semantic gap. Your CEO or your decision maker thought they were purchasing a truth machine, something that can give you instant answers, an oracle, a cure to all your problems. What they bought, in fact, is a probabilistic engine. It dreams, it guesses, it predicts. These are just mathematical models that guess the next likely item in a sequence of things. Of course they guess. They do not have the truth. They cannot retrieve fact unless explicitly told so. And we are expecting them to operate like a database when actually you have been given a dream machine. And that's the first fallacy. So your CEO, who now has spent millions of dollars getting you this model, is expecting results in ROI, while you are stood there trying to grapple with this. How do I get this to work? And that is the first problem. In fact, there's a very interesting case study that recently happened where an airlines implemented a chatbot to help them reduce the number of humans who were involved in customer support. And one of their customers conversed with this chatbot, asking if a certain refund policy existed for bereavement. The customer needed to cancel a ticket, and they had a bereavement in their family and wanted to know if the refund policy allowed it. The chatbot confidently said, of course. Turns out the policy does not. So the customer cancels the ticket, then asks for their money back, and the company refuses. The customer goes to court, and then the company says, but this is an AI model that we didn't implement, we just bought it off this other company, so you should really be targeting this lawsuit to the other company, not us. And the judge ruled that if you are using AI in any part of your product or service, you are responsible for its actions, no matter how minor or major. And this is a direct result of the semantic gap. So, the next time an AI chatbot that you interact with tells you about a full refund, ask it to double check. Better ask it to get a human in the loop, at least for the next year, before they're all fully mature. Now, what's even more interesting is, we do this other thing called a context swamp, which is, we have all of these rich documents in our companies that have strategies contradicting one another, emails that talk about opposing objectives, all kinds of documentation that asks us to do so many things. And we just gather it all together. And then we dump it inside this chatbot and say, for 2026, what should our company's strategy be? The AI pauses, measures, and you see that circle right in the chatbot. This is thinking. So you must be wondering, yeah, this is doing some really deep work. Then it comes out with a very well articulated, polished, but useless strategy that's completely hallucinated and does not work for your company or any other company in this planet. And this is the context swamp. You see, the problem is we are trying to give it context that we ourselves only understand. So think about it. If you think about it in terms of code that's being developed in companies, the engineer who wrote the code may have quit in 2012. There might be a line or comment in the piece of code that says, please do not touch the line below this. There might be another variable that if you remove, completely obliterates your system. And yet, the AI model does not understand this. We do. We don't touch those lines of code. But the AI model does not. And we are expecting miracles when it does not understand context. So, what does that mean? We have automated the power of reading, but we have not automated the power of understanding. We have automated the power of building data pipeline, but we have not automated the building a meaning pipeline. And therein lies this fundamental problem, right? When we're operating with AI. When you dump in chaos, you expect beautiful patterns emerging from the messy data. And yes, it is possible. Let me be clear. AI is very good at finding hidden patterns that we miss. But when your input is just garbage, it's just chaos, the only thing you can expect is scaled chaos. So don't expect magic from something when you are giving garbage in. Remember, garbage in, garbage out. And this actually brings me to why I wrote this book. One of the things I've noticed in the past 15 years is text is very dangerous. You can hide behind lines like I'm building an agentic system, or I'm building a high dimensional pipeline, or I'm automating synergies and this and that. But you have no clue of what you're saying in any of those sentences. You don't have an idea of what you've written. In fact, nowadays, most people just use AI to write these documents, so they don't even know what's being sent to their leadership. But if you flip the switch and you need to explain the same thing as a diagram, and here I'm saying that you are writing or drawing this diagram not using AI models, because they can do that now as well. You have to really think through a lot more carefully. A picture is 1,000 words. And in a compressed representation, having a diagram that has to convey the meaning of 1,000 words is very difficult. It means you have to think critically and analyze, and you can't hide behind words that can be ambiguous. If the diagram has the wrong flow, people will find it out. And that's why I ensured that this book would not just be written, it would be illustrated. And through these diagrams, I try to explain the various algorithms that are driving our world today and will continue to do so in the future. Let me give you an example. Have a look at the picture that we have on the slide, right? We have something called a vector space. Now it sounds very fancy, but it's very simple. If you do 5 minus 4 plus 3, what is the answer? Okay, that took a lot more time than I thought. But all right, but you got the basic principle. Now, in a similar way, these AI models can represent words and concepts in a mathematical representation. So think of it like a graph paper, right? And this graph paper is called a vector space, where these AI models encode meaning. So if I took the word king and I subtracted the word man, and I added the word woman, the AI model knows that the result is queen, just like you did 5 minus 4 plus 3. So it's basically mathematics. And the moment you see this, the moment that you see its probability and mathematics and algorithms, the mysticism goes away. You're no longer thinking about how these models are magically doing things. You don't think of them as sentient beings yet. But you see them as mathematical engines that can do incredible things when you interact with them in the right way and when you set expectations in the right way. So this is the shift that I encourage all of you to take today, because this is the most important thing you need to know. AI isn't magic. It's a beautifully curated collection of algorithms, and the mechanics between them are what's driving the enterprise today. So please stop debating philosophy. Please stop thinking about that social network a group of AI agents started because it ended up being a human who's driving them behind the scenes. and start making engineering decisions based on this mechanics. Now, another question arises, right? In this age, creation is free. A decade ago, people who could write code, people who could design experiments and implement them were prized. They were celebrated. They would earn the most money and be prized in different companies. But now creation is free. As I just explained, AI models can write 100,000 lines of code and do more. Protein folding. It actually won the inventors of the Nobel Prize. Right? So if creation is free and anybody can create, then your perspective needs to shift. You can no longer be a creator. You need to be a curator. And curation is going to be the highest value skill for the next decade, not creation. And let me try to explain this a little more concretely. Taste is the most important thing that you can develop in this age. Yes, you need to understand how AI works. Yes, you need to know whether or not you can use AI in certain scenarios. But if you don't have the discernment or taste, if you don't know how to curate, you're in trouble. And what's difficult right now is we're trying to do this curation without understanding the system. We don't know the mechanics. We don't know how it works or behaves because it's a black box to most of us. And we're trying to curate what we do not understand, what we do not comprehend. And that's a very, very dangerous place to be in. And I want to double click on this because this is probably the most important thing I want you to take away tonight. Taste is knowledge. And it's the ability to see what is good from bad, what is best from better, and the ability to know when something works and when something doesn't. Let's take an example, right? Imagine that you have an AI model, the same AI model that wrote those 100,000 lines of code, and you ask it to write a piece of software for your company that solves a particular problem. And it does so. The code comes out, and you have a senior engineer review it. They look at the code, they look at the tests, it's all passing, it's wonderful, and they say, yeah, we're ready, let's launch this. Now imagine a senior architect looking at that exact same code. Imagine her pausing for a second, studying it for 30 seconds. And then she says, yes, this code is fine, it runs, but the memory management is brittle. If we launch this and we have more than 10,000 users at once, the system will collapse. Nothing changed, right, between the two people. The code is the same, the output is the same, the tests pass, the application is the same. But that discernment, that taste, that curation, that is what is going to separate who is able to survive and thrive in this era and who is really able to drive their companies and careers forward versus those who will be left behind. A rising tide will lift all boats, but the boats with sails will move faster than the ones with no sails. And curation is like that sail. Now, I want to end where we began tonight. It's 1943, and these two gentlemen, Walter Pitts and Warren McCulloch, have these notes. They're just reflecting on what they have just discovered. The unfortunate reality is they never saw their edifice being built out. They never saw the amount of transformation, the amount of engineering, the amount of money and time it took to build this grand plaza. Walter Pitts died at the age of 46, and Warren McCulloch passed away in 1969. Yet, we live in their edifice. We walk through it, and we don't know which walls are load-bearing. We don't know which walls are for decoration. We don't know which pathways lead to meaning and which lead to darkness. And in the same way, we don't know which investments will succeed, which investments will crumble. And we need a floor plan. And I hope that this book will be the floor plan that helps you understand this amazing structure that is changing our lives and will continue to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the thought-provoking presentation. Now we'll have a conversation with the special invitees. Somebody mentioned, one of the speakers in this forum, that yes, AI is very close to Chennai, and Chennai boy written the book on AI because the I name is there in the AI. So where is the question of it not being close to us? Now, Now I'm going to request Suresh, Raman and Antony to lead the conversation. Before I request them, may I the AVP?
Mr. Suresh Raman is past president of MMA and former vice president and regional head of TCS Chennai, leading its largest center with over 95,000 associates. During his distinguished career at TCS, Mr. Suresh Raman held global leadership roles across sales, delivery, large strategic outsourcing deals, and regional operations, including Central Europe. A management graduate from BITS Pilani, Mr. Suresh Raman has also contributed extensively to industry bodies such as CII, MCCI, and the Indo-Australian Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Antony Prasahant is a partner at Deloitte Touche, Tohmatsu, India and the Life Sciences and Healthcare Consulting Leader for Deloitte South Asia with over 20 years of consulting and industry experience. Mr. Antony specializes in large transformation initiatives spanning profitability improvement, technology rollouts, and value chain synchronization with a strong focus on digital and AI-led growth. Mr. Antony has also played a key role in industry forums and public policy, including supporting government and state-led healthcare initiatives, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah, that's a profile of thing. A warm round of applause to our special invitees. There'll be a conversation between the special invitees and the author, and it will be a free-flowing conversation. There is a QR code on the screen. If you have any questions, please scan the QR code and share your question. We'll address them. What you do, lead the conversation, Mr. Suresh.
Good evening to all of you. Actually, while I asked a few questions before I went through the book. Am I a data scientist? Am I a coding? I do a coding every day. Am I an AI architect or a machine learning expert? Am I a mathematician or a statistician? I mean, being in the industry, IT industry, I can say that definitely I'm one of you. So I don't think I'm an expert in all these things. Being an expert is very, very difficult. But did I get some orientation on AI? Yes, like many of you would have got some orientation. Did I use AI in some way? Definitely, like all of you are experimenting, you and I experiment every day. So I'm among the rest of us. So I think that comes with the topic, right? Aptly titled. So this book helps relearn what we learned, including some mathematics and statistics and everything. So thanks for him to me also to keep brushing up with some topics which I learned in childhood or in school or college. And it books helps you appreciate what AI is, what AI can do, how we can leverage AI, etc. And thanks to Mr. Sitaraman, when he called me, people like him are so humble. I think the way he spoke, I think being an industrialist is not easy, right? Building in 1974 he started. I don't know how many of you know that it might have been so difficult to start a company like that, right? So I think thanks for him and just a quick thing because sorry I'm taking some time because I wanted to trying to set more context to it. And this is what the 250 pages book made me realize in the last 25 days or so when you sent the book to me. So instead of dry technical definitions, you get real narratives. There is literally a story about a robo baker dealing with a robo, stealing muffins to explain supervised learning. And a lot of practical real world applications showing how we are already encountering AI in our lives. Whether it's spam filter, he talks about logistic regression, yes or no, whether it is Netflix recommendations, collaborative filtering with embeddings, or suddenly getting tagged in a picture in Instagram, convolutional neural networks. I think he's made things easy. Looks like a lot of buzzwords, but he has made it quite easy. I also understood that the transformers, how it revolutionized language processing, because they solved a very fundamental problem. He talks about how do you make a computer understand that in the sentence, the animal didn't cross the road because it was too tired? The word it refers to the animal, not the road, right? I think these are very, very important things he brings out. And I also had a small conversation with him. It's like how we groom a child in the right manner or in the wrong manner. And that's how we need to manage AI also. I also tried some analogy, as this is an analogy-driven book with real-life examples and zero coding, by the way. So we are not trying to learn coding in this. So one question I have in this context, how will you explain AI to your kids? I saw 2 kids running around here. Supervised learning, unsupervised learning. So I thought we'll start with some fun also, right?
Sure. So those 2 kids are my daughters. So thank you for your kind words, sir. I think in terms of what kids are doing, it's probably an advanced form of reinforcement learning. But to answer your question, I think we need to flip the question and say, what can we learn from kids about AI? Because a lot of what they do to acquire skills is very similar to the way that we are actually training and using these models. And kids learn from examples, AI learns from examples. Kids learn from their mistakes, hopefully. AI learns from its mistakes if you incentivize it the right way. And if I need to teach children about AI, I'd probably say it's like how your friend or how you learned. That would probably be the easiest example. Like, how do you ride a bike? Or how do you learn to draw? You just do it, and then somebody teaches you, or maybe you fall. And from those experiences, you learn. And you are building muscle memory. You are building these connections or synapses. You're just learning these patterns. Then you repeat blindly. And in the same way, these AI models learn from millions of examples. The beauty of our brain is that we only need a few examples to learn something. These models still need millions and millions of examples to effectively learn, which is why, having these huge models, when they say, OpenAI came out with this 300 billion parameter model. I don't think it's 300 billion, but just, humor me. You can think the human brain, I think, has about 80 billion or 80 million. I might be mistaken, neurons. So you can think of the scale and how effective our minds are. So it's about telling the kids, how do you learn something? And this model just has a harder time of learning the same thing you do.
I think I'd like to answer on, especially we have to observe kids and teach AI in the way we can teach in kids. Yeah, thank you. I think you'd like to ask a thing before I go to the next one.
As a country, right, we have the ability to adopt a technology much faster, as Indians. And, when we had 2G, we had the ability to skip a generation. We quickly went to 4G and now we are on 5G, right? Can you hear me now? Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So we had the ability to adopt technology quickly, and we are even able to skip a generation. And one of the best examples that I always tell people in most of my conversation is 20 years before, when you entered an airport, how was your airline ticket? It looked like a passbook, right? And then 10 years before, they said you can just come with your boarding pass, a print of your boarding pass. And then 5 years before, they said you can show just your boarding pass on the phone, and then you can get it scanned. Today, we don't even show the boarding pass, right? We walk in just through DigiYatra, it recognizes your face. And that's the technology adoption that we have in India. So what is your view in terms of AI and the role that it can have to shape a country's economy?
So that's a very deep question. So I hope I can add some color to it. So you're right. We are exceedingly good at adopting new things. In fact, I would argue that any new trend usually first takes off in India versus other places, right? And AI is no different. It's just that the interesting thing is with AI, we don't really have a user manual, so there's no right way or wrong way. I mean, there are certain ways that it can be harmful. I'm not talking about that, but for the right type of use cases, there's really no right way or wrong way that has been prescribed or written. There are guidelines, but then those guidelines themselves are being rewritten every time a new model comes out. So, in terms of adoption, I think we already have the raw ingredients for what it takes. Like the first thing we do is we are very brave as a culture to try things. We are not hesitant. And I think that is the most important thing you need for AI adoption, which is to try and play with it, interact, see what happens, and then update your priors, because there's a lot of unlearning and relearning we need to do. I always give this example of AI as a cartoon character that's a scientist, but has the ability to behave like a toddler. In the sense, it's extremely intelligent at a lot of things, and it's extremely stupid at a lot of things that we take for granted. So the way that you can derive value out of it is by treating it as if it's an intern at your company. Like giving it very clear instructions and then seeing what happens. And at the same time, you should also be courageous enough to try things which you think, oh, I don't think the model will be able to do this. You need to let go of those assumptions and actually see what happens. Just check the outcome. And when you try those things, you'll see that the model can surprise you sometimes. So in terms of the ability it has to unlock the economy, you can think about, like I gave the example about this 100,000 lines of writing a compiler, right? It's a monumental task. It's been done by a team of AI models, right? Just different sessions of the same AI model. Now imagine a young college kid who has this brilliant idea in his mind or her mind about starting a company. Previously, you need to go ask for funding, you need to have like a pitch deck, you need to then find people to work with to build it out, because clearly you don't have all the skill sets. But now you have a Swiss Army knife next to you that works 24/7, is tireless, and more often than not is really, really good at most of the things that you are probably not good at. Now you can, instead of trying to build a pitch deck, you can actually build a prototype and see immediately if it works. You can take that prototype to users, and as you said, in India we adopt things, we try things. Those people will give you feedback. You can take that feedback and improve this product. So imagine the number of solo entrepreneurs who can emerge from this without needing to go through the traditional 4-year degree, without needing to go through pathways and build, secure funding before they can try out an idea. So the only thing stopping you is your own inertia. So now imagine in a country like India where we have so many bright minds who are all trying out these ideas in parallel. That is the impact I feel it can have on the economy.
Absolutely, I think it's well said.
Yeah, thanks. See, too much dependence in AI, I think many people will have this sort of such queries, can lead to vulnerabilities for human and their cognitive thinking, right? Anything you'd like to touch upon from the book or even otherwise, but also in context of even last, I think February, first week or something, the new models have been launched, and the new models where AI is learning, AI is developing AI, so it's becoming more perfect, and the exploratory way of learning in AI is going to also be there. And you also talked about transfer learning, combining 2-3 topics. You talked about transfer learning because in consulting, we all try to apply something in one vertical industry to another vertical industry. So I think all this combined, AI is going to learn a lot, and sometimes it might do the wrong things as well, right? So I think anything you'd like to touch upon from the book or even otherwise?
Let me try to unpack that. So the first one was transfer learning and AI learning the wrong things.
Vulnerability, yeah.
And the second one was about our own ability to critically think and how to continue to build those abilities. Okay. So regarding the transfer learning, that's the number one reason why these models that, OpenAI or Anthropic or Google or any of these big companies have are so valuable, because what they build is something called a foundation model, meaning that it is very good at a number of things, but it is not specialized for anything. So what we do in companies is then take those models, and to set the context, right, it takes billions of dollars to train these models properly. And it takes months. It's not an overnight endeavor. And I talk about this in the book. But the point is, once you have a foundation model, this whole notion of transfer learning becomes really valuable, because if you know how to play tennis, chances are you will learn ping pong or table tennis much faster than somebody who's played neither game. And you can transfer the skills of how to hold a racket, how to hit the ball at the right moment with a little bit of practice. Few examples. In the same way, an AI model that has learned a vast number of concepts can then be specialized with a few examples, which means you need very little data to specialize this model for your use case. And then suddenly it becomes specialized for your particular application, right? So that's the first thing about transfer learning. So that's why these models are valuable. Now, in terms of it learning bad things, that entirely stems from the data. So this has been a fundamental problem, because machine learning in general is these algorithms don't learn the outcome. Rather, we give them the input and the outcome, and they learn the rules to achieve the outcome. Traditional software is the reverse. We specify the rules and teach or explicitly lay out how to handle different examples. In machine learning, the model sees the examples and learns the rules itself. So it's more scalable in terms of learning how to handle corner cases. And therein lies the fundamental problem, because if you have data, the model is learning rules from the data. So if you have biases in your data, if you have harmful content in your data, if you have errors in your data, that all stem from human curation, right? For example, there was I won't name the company, but they had used a AI model to filter resumes, because now tech industry is booming, and a decade ago they figured out that they couldn't handle the volume of applications coming in. So they trained an AI model to filter resumes so that their hiring managers would have an easier time. And what happened is, this model filtered out all the women. So only men were getting through the resume screen. And it turned out that this model was using a history where this company initially had a lot of men in the workforce. And so it was correlating that if you are a man, you will thrive in this company. So you will be successful. So it was actually trying to find out wherever, it said women's chess club captain or women's informatics Olympiad champion. It actively filtered out resumes like that. And it is a bias from the data, because it was trained on data, historical data that the company was hiring on. Then they had to disband this model and then, update it. So in terms of harm, that's just scratching the surface. Now coming to the cognitive side of things. I think all of us can agree that we don't do a lot of things the same way we used to maybe a couple of years back. Ever since ChatGPT came out, writing emails is now automated. We ask ChatGPT to write a response, or nowadays even Gmail has its own autocomplete. We don't read any article or blog. We say, please summarize this. And now the same is happening for videos. We don't watch the videos. We want to hear because our attention span is reducing. Like the average human attention span apparently for adults is 7 seconds. And after that you lose focus, which is shocking. But that's a direct consequence of us wanting to have that repeated gratification. Like imagine if there's a 50-page article, and if AI summarizes it and you get the findings, you feel as if you've read the entire 50 pages and you walk away with that dopamine rush. Truth is, you don't remember any of it 5 minutes later. And that is the fundamental problem. So you can think of it like there's a mountain, let's say, and there's two ways to get there. You are either a hiker who's going to climb up the mountain, understand the terrain intimately and climb up, or you are going to be a tourist who flies in with a helicopter to the summit. Now both people reach the summit, but only one reaches the summit transformed. If a snowstorm came, only one will know how to come back to the base, right? The other would not. And using AI is like using a helicopter. It completely streamlines, automates, and makes your life easy to understand, and the amount of content you can now consume has just gone exponentially through the roof. But with that, your ability to think critically, your ability to form opinions, your ability to form new neural connections is also going down quite a bit. And you can see it in schools. Children are turning in their homework with ChatGPT. So professors nowadays are like using the old school way of conducting exams, which is pen and paper, no computers allowed. and you have to sit and write. It's actually happening in universities across the world. So the thing I will say is, we feel like when we don't understand something, that is a problem, and we need to rely on AI as a crutch, and we're outsourcing our thinking. But the real point is that challenge, that not understanding it, that obstacle that is in your way of understanding, that is how you learn. And if you outsource that also, there is nothing left for you in terms of growing your cognitive abilities.
I just have a fundamental doubt. Maybe many may be wanting to. You said, any picture, anything that is captured, is it either black to white or red to blue, right? That signifies everything, is it? Anything that's picturized or is within that all the time.
So, yeah, so for most of these models, just to contextualize the question, so this is about computer vision, right? When the computer is trying to understand images, and nowadays you can upload a receipt and this AI model tells you like what you spent on what item, or it can help you understand what's happening in the picture, right? So how that works is when you digitize a picture, it's actually a stream of numbers. It's a sequence of numbers. If it's a black and white picture, those values are between 0 and 255. 0 signifies black, 255 signifies white. And if you have a color image, then you have 3 streams of numbers. I mean, I'm giving a simpler example. There are different color formats, and I don't want to get overly technical there. But the 3 streams of numbers are red, green, and blue. And each stream has the same range, 0 to 255 typically. And 0 means, for example, if I take the red stream, 0 in red means there's no red in that picture. 255 means there's a lot of red in that particular location in the picture. So you can think of the picture as a grid of numbers, and that's how this computer is understanding. And this immediately tells you how difficult the problem is, because when you look at like this picture behind, you see yellow, you see a bunch of people, instantly you spot where they are, and you're able to tell contrast, colors. For the computer, it's just a sequence of numbers, and it's trying to extract patterns from these numbers to then make sense of this picture. So that's how challenging that problem is.
So I liked your analogy on the climbing a mountain, one physically climbing, or then you can use a helicopter, right? So whether AI is it a shortcut, or is it... so the question that comes to my mind is how we use it and where do we apply it is very important. So I lead the life sciences and healthcare at Deloitte and the practice at Deloitte. And a lot of AI models are being used for diagnostics, right? Let's say a patient comes in with maybe a potential, it's an onco, or it's a cancer kind of related disease. Now, if you look at the typical cycle, right? You walk in, the patient comes in, looks at a general physician, he finds something is wrong, then he says, okay, why don't you do a blood test? Then once the blood test shows some changes in the vitals, then he says, okay, go to do a MRI. Then he says, okay, maybe you may have to do a PET scan. Then he says, okay, now maybe let's do a small surgery and let's do a biopsy. So by the time you complete your diagnostics, the patient has lost maybe 6 to 8 weeks, right? The intention is, can we diagnose faster and put the patient on a treatment cycle so that, and therefore there are hospitals where they use these AI models to diagnose the disease, right? Because when a doctor looks at a patient, it's only the inherent knowledge of that individual, right? Whereas when you look at data from multiple patients, multiple MRI images, multiple CT scans, which is the knowledge cap of some more than 100 physicians, right? Which you use and then you correlate the data to. So the question that came to my mind in the future, more from a healthcare perspective, is a physician with AI more preferred or a physician without AI preferred? And what about the emotional aspect? AI helps you this, but there's also a human touch. Someone has to spend time with the patient, right? So where do you think this is the role of AI plays in this overall ecosystem, because there's a individual who's involved, there's a life at stake, and then, but AI can also help, but AI should not replace a human. So what's your view on that?
So the first thing is, yes, it's already happening in certain places where AI is able to detect critical diseases months before a physician can actually catch it. And again, this might be like sensational headlines, but the fact is, like you said, it's able to analyze these scans, it's trained on these scans at scale. But at the end of the day, you still need that domain expertise, you still need, because would you believe a diagnosis from a machine, or would you believe the diagnosis of somebody who is seen hundreds of thousands of patients and then is able to explain to you, not just from a logical, cold-hearted, logical way, but also from an emotional perspective? Because I feel that you need a human in the loop, especially for critical decisions. It's not just medicine, right? It's law. Whether it's like when you are passing judgment, I would much rather ensure that there's a human in the loop there. If it's financial, for example, you definitely want a human in the loop. Anything that is critical, where you need that, where high risk is involved, it's always better to have a human in the loop. So that's the first part. Now, in terms of the AI assisting physicians, yes, it's definitely shortcutting a lot of these sort of the sequence, the ability to identify that something is wrong potentially, and then maybe preemptively help the physician do some things that they might wait for, like as you said, 2-3 steps. Because in that case, the decision still lies with the physician. It's not the AI model, it's just assisting. At the same time, you also have to remember that the AI model has been trained on data, and if that data was poorly annotated, if there is errors in the data that this model was learned or trained on, you're in trouble, because then you're believing a model that is entirely false. So blindly just trusting an AI is probably, at least as of now. Now coming to the emotional aspect, I think that applies to a number of places, right? We think about education, teaching, like people are talking about AI completely replacing teachers, or we think about workforce where middle managers are being eliminated because they only want technical people and they can guide AI models. And I'll just have a question for you. Like if you think about a school, different children learn differently. And would you rather have a model that teaches everybody the same way with infinite patience nonetheless? Or would you have a teacher who can spot whether somebody's understood it? Like just see the cues, right? They can see the spark in the eye. You can see whether they're like shrinking in the seat. You can see whether they're getting an idea or which areas they need. So you need both. And similarly, I would much rather receive a performance review from my manager who's a human versus a machine, because I can't argue. I can't argue for a raise or a promotion, right? And if there are biases in the data that it's been trained on to make these decisions, I'm done for, right? So in the same way, in surgery, AI can be precise, but again, you need that emotional side where somebody is there to tell you that, okay, this is what's happening, this is why it's, this procedure is being done, and I'm using this model or, this robot, hopefully in the future, so that it does minimal, it does what is, essential, and helps you have a much higher quality of life, increases your speed of recovery. That's the kind of future that I would love to live in.
And therefore, I usually, when people say AI, I don't call it artificial intelligence. I call it as assisted intelligence or augmented intelligence. So, so that's how I look at it when it comes.
Yeah. Probably the last question here. So I didn't see much of talk about AI agents in the book. And today, everywhere people are talking about AI agents, and social media celebrities are using AI agents to manage their profiles as well. So I don't know, what is your take on these AI agents, which is taking the world by storm? And of course, agentic AI, and everybody is going to use many more agents also, and agents to manage agents, right? So anything on that?
So the first part of the question, agents weren't a thing when I started writing the book. They were a thing when my manuscript went into the publisher. So I didn't have the time to change and update. And that's actually the hardest part about writing a book on AI, because the moment you've written something, it's already obsolete for the most part. So the thing I try to do is try to focus on the fundamentals and the evergreen material as much as possible. Now, to your second question about AI agents themselves, I think I briefly mentioned it in the talk, which is that we are living through this era of the 1966 situation again, where agents are to set context for the audience and the listeners, agents are basically a language model, which is like, all these companies, they have these huge AI models. Everything is called AI these days, but underneath the hood, they're just a language model that understands language. And now imagine that if you ask the language model about what is the weather in Seattle right now, it will give you a hallucinated answer. Imagine that the model does not have access to the internet. Imagine that it's just, you ask it a question, it responds. It will give you a hallucinated answer, which is completely fake. Now, imagine that all of a sudden you give this model the ability to interact with tools like the weather checker, like a calculator, like access to a credit card to make authorized purchases. All of a sudden, the model doesn't need to focus on the things it's bad at. These models are terrible at max unless they're specifically trained for it. They're really terrible at factual information, which is why they have to look up information. Now, if you have access to the tools, the model can say, I'm really bad at this, so I probably should use one of the tools I have access to. And then it makes a plan. So how do I go and solve the user's query? And that's something the LLM is very good at, the language model, right? It then makes a plan. Once it makes a plan, it then has which tools it needs to access in order to solve or execute this plan. And then it goes to the tools do the calculation or whatever is required, it comes back to the model, and then it goes to the next step. So this is basically AI agents in a nutshell, until the task is executed. So you're offloading the capabilities or the tasks where the model is not really good at, and you are doubling down on the areas where it's really good at. So that's why agents are very popular, because now all of a sudden they can plan and execute and reason, quote unquote, in air quotes, reason. Now, a team of agents is basically, you can have different agents for doing things, because these models have something called a context window. So you can think of it like a bucket. If every time you chat with one of these models, the bucket gets filled with water. Eventually, when conversation grows too long, the bucket overflows. So what you said in the start is no longer there in the model's head. It forgets. So if you use one AI model for doing all of these complex things, it's going to forget. So then what you do is you subdivide this task across different AI models. One AI model to plan, one AI model to write code, one AI model to do something else. And then you coordinate, which is the interesting part of why this multi-agent system is getting a lot of... but the point is, we don't have real use cases yet. As in, we do have some, but they are far and few because of the challenges that we just discussed. They're probabilistic. And the moment that you offload some of your agency to this model, you are no longer in control of the outcomes that come. It can be anything. So that is where the challenge is, and that's where the field is trying to solve.
Probably you will take assistance of AI agents to write your next book.
Okay. Humans would, I think, again, there is different ways to look at this. I would definitely like to take the optimistic view and say that we can spend more time on the things we really enjoy and less time on the things that are drudgery and grunt work. So I feel like AI models are getting more and more capable. So we need to expand our imagination to something that is beyond what we think we can do right now. We no longer are limited by our inabilities because the AI can compensate for those. So we need to double down on our strengths and figure out what are we really interested in, what are the ideas we want to explore, and really start thinking about how would you solve it if you had a magic wand that could make it possible. And in some cases, in 10 years, I hope AI is that magic wand. So that would be my answer to that. Yeah, this is a very, very difficult thing. The thing I'm noticing is that ever since the AI boom started, more and more kids are going into computer science, or not computer science, they're going into data science and AI. The thing I want to highlight is you are going into a very crowded field, which is fine. If you're really passionate about learning this field, so be it. But then I entirely question this traditional education path in the long term. Because if these models can give you any knowledge, again with caveats, you have to fact check, factual information, all of that. But if it's at your fingertips, why do you want to go through a 4-year degree and then higher education? I mean, you need to think about what you want to learn. What is the outcomes you expect from this? And you need to rethink and then think about what are the problems that you really want to solve. What are the questions that you want to answer, have answers for? So that's how you have to decide how to upskill. I feel like if you just go because the industry is going towards AI, and if I get a degree in AI and data science, I'm set, that is the wrong mindset. You need to think about what makes you come alive. And then you need to double down on the education that will help you get there. AI will be there, but you need to figure out what makes you unique. There's some certain things that only you can do. And you need to be able to double down on the education that will give you that unfair advantage, not make you one of many who are doing the same thing.
Captain, is there a time for one more? Two more questions.
Okay.
Time will come. One more. Okay.
So,
These are all coming online, is it? Online.
how would you shape where organized? So the thing is, the logic I like to follow is always start simple. Don't try to overcomplicate. Just because you have AI doesn't mean that you can immediately take something that was being done by a team of engineers, for example, and have it outsourced. Start with a very small task, see how well it does, fix the issues there, because you're going to have probabilistic output. It's not going to do the same thing every time. You might find unanticipated outcomes. Once you fix that, then expand the scope, and then slightly expand the scope, and then see where it is. Like, you're offloading your agency, so you need to be very, very sure of the outcomes that are associated with that, and incrementally expand to more complex cases, and then take feedback, iterate, and then slowly expand. Don't go all in at the start. Highest value skill is judging. So generally when you work on things, you will see that there are certain, like, take music or art or books that you read. Why do you pick up a book? Why do you listen to certain types of music? Why do you stop and observe a piece of art? There's something in you that stopped you from doing that stopped you in your tracks, made you look at those things, right? So that is the question that you need to start probing. Like, why am I interested in this particular thing? And how can I find more things like this that might interest me? Or probe deeper into the topic. So if you have a technical topic that you are really excited by, then first try to question, why am I interested in this? It can be as simple as something that you saw in a YouTube video that you wanted to watch from start to finish. Why did I stop and watch it? What is there in this video that I really liked? And then try to double down. And by doing this, over time, you will build a certain taste and a curation mindset that you can then take on for other activities. So it comes over time with deliberate practice.
Thank you, Mr. Sai. This is a subject we can keep going on. Over 540 viewers watching it online, and so many questions have come. But due to time, paucity of time to do that, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for making AI so simple. So I'm quite sure when you step out of this room, you will know that you will be able to do quite a bit of work with the AI. So what you have to do is go and buy the book. Then only you will understand more. And may I request you please?
Online pay we get
540, sir.
540 people are online.
Sir, can you please step forward and do the honor of presenting the book? So we'll give you more books for you to read.
Yes. Very nice. Sai, congratulations.
Oh, lovely.
Started with our Suresh.
Come, it's very thoughtful of you do this and we appreciate it. Yeah, for sale nearby from design. There's a few here. From your thanks a lot. Yes. Can you do that? There is a handful of copies. They can pay and take it. How much is it? 590. So I tell them the wrong figure 500.